their opening headliner for. Yeah.
Wow.
It was amazing.
That's incredible.
And they speak English fluently. They start speaking English they're taught in kindergarten. So that's why they loved my act.
And aren't they like top 5 happiest people on the planet?
They were fantastic. And we went in the wintertime and it was fantastic. You should go. There's 2 things that I think you would like. I don't know if you like vodka types beverages.
I like whatever gets you a buzz.
There's something called Skol. Responsibly. Thank you. So there's a beverage called a liquor called a Skol, and it's like vodka kind of, but it is a fermented alcohol that they have varying flavors. Like a little bit may have more anise, not quite like it's not like Sambuca, not like thick like that, but thin, really tasty. And the other thing is called a hoogie, which is basically just like you said, for a snowstorm, you just want to be lazy, comfortable, and happy when it's cold out. So that's
and drinking some good liquor.
And we're drinking some Skol. Yeah, Skol is necessary for a hoogie, I think.
My only qualm about going to Denmark is I read not that long ago that they're the tallest in the world. Like the average man in Denmark's like 6'2", and I can't be short.
Then I would send you to Puebla, Mexico.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, because
I'm
5'6", and I could see down the block on a crowded day. I don't know why I'm saying that. I'm just saying, people.
You can say you're half Mexican.
People are shorter. Yeah, my
that's
people.
Fine. Height doesn't matter.
Yeah. But I'm saying in Copenhagen, I'm 5'6". I did not notice everyone's tall to me everywhere, most places. I just felt taller in Puebla.
But now that you're an adult, you know height, right? Like, you ever see like adults that still get upset about height, and you're like, who cares, dude?
I don't know if you're familiar with my inability to use a mental filter when I'm speaking, and I have to work really hard.
No.
I know. When I see tall people. It's not short people. I did do it once. I was at the Zanies in Vernon Hills, and there used to be did you ever work the Vernon Hills Zanies? No,
just St. Charles, and Vernon Hills closed before I got going.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, like 2010 or so. I think it closed 9 or so. And I was this is a terrible story. Everyone forgive me. I'm being honest about how terrible the filter is in my head. And as a comic, sometimes you just have it all out there all the time. And the cashier was like 4'11" or so, like barely 5 feet tall, maybe shorter. And I bought something, and he was going to give me change, but he was clearly out of like nickels, and he went to go break open another roll, which I'm like, oh, I've got change. I go, oh, are you short? And like I was like, no, I don't mean. I mean, and I'm like, I'm trying to like backtrack. I'm like, no, obviously, I mean, not obvious. I mean, like, I'm saying, because like that's how my dad would talk when you didn't have enough money. Are you short of money? Are you short of change? But then I overtalked. But with tall people, I have to bite through my cheek not to say you're tall to tall people, like all the time. I don't know what it is. My God, you're tall. I don't do it, but I have to work very hard not to say it.
I became friends with this actor, Ned, I'm going to butcher his last name, Roslim or something like that. If you've ever seen the show How I Met Your Mother, he plays one of Jason Segel's brothers.
Okay.
I met him when I was living in LA for a few years. He is 7 feet tall.
Oh, gosh.
And his whole Instagram...
I wouldn't be able to take it.
Yeah, his whole Instagram is the hashtag, how tall are you? Because whenever he meets people, that's the first thing they say is, how tall are you?
Yeah.
And when he does meet someone, like he'll take a picture with someone going like, shout out to Mikey. He didn't ask hashtag, how tall are you? Like that's his whole Instagram is dedicated to people asking him that question.
Yeah.
I mean, when you meet someone who's 7 feet tall, and I always thought this too, if you're 6'11", why don't you just lie and say 7 feet?
1,000%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who's going to call you on that?
Grow your hair out a little taller. I don't know.
And nobody's going to eye you and be like, I think you're 6'11", right?
Yeah. No, I do struggle with that. We've been obsessed with Liam Neeson movies. I'm just watching all his B movies. I can send you a list if you'd like them.
Hey, he doesn't make B movies. They're all A's to me.
I'm saying he's so freaking. That voice is ridiculous. And when he does a movie about being Irish, there's one set during the Troubles, like in the 70s, and I'm like, oh, he's so much cuter when he uses his real voice. Like he doesn't sound as like menacing.
He starred in Michael Collins too. He sings a couple verses when they're having an Irish session.
Yeah.
I remember thinking he had a pretty decent voice.
Yeah, he's magnificent. So we've been watching a lot of those movies, but I noticed how like Irish structures seem to have very short doorways. So he's always like ducking under the doorways.
Yeah, he's like 6'4". He's a big guy.
You know, I believe he is our John Wayne, and I would argue better.
Yeah, because I believe he's a legit tough guy.
Yeah.
Where from what I've read about John Wayne, look, I love John Wayne movies.
So
too.
do I.
So many great ones.
Say it.
But from what I've read about
collecting
him,
dolls, the Kachina dolls, and see, yeah.
Yeah, I just never.
And the racism was a little bit problematic.
Yeah, kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you? You're getting tough with an indigenous woman who's accepting an award on behalf of Marlon Brando.
This is the thing.
That's your weak. That's a weak man.
We have a lot to talk about, and I have questions for you because you're a white dude. I know it's hard to believe, folks.
For those of you listening on the radio, I am looking at my arms being like, I'm confirmed. I am white. That's true.
But you don't feel, here's the thing, like you identify, and in your comedy, I really encourage folks to follow Joe Kilgallon on all the social media platforms. Where do you prefer? Like your podcast on YouTube or? It's
YouTube. You could see, like, I've got like 3 hours of stand-up comedy content on YouTube. So go to YouTube if you want to see the stand-up. I also post clips on Instagram. Those are the two main ones I kind of try to filter people through.
You call things as they are, including the BS from everybody, right? Whether, I mean, one of my favorite bits is about being on that train and trying to defend somebody who's being, attacked. Yeah. It's one of my favorite things because you're like, look, and it goes to the core of what I think Democrats need to articulate, which is I can't help you if I can't win. Right? I can't defend you. I can't fight for what's right if you keep holding me back with, not holding me back, but like, oh, excuse me, if you don't mind, could you just say it this way and not that way? Or maybe if you could just use this language. And I don't mean it that way, but I mean even like ladies, whatever that tone is. We have to figure this out, Joe. We don't know how to throw down, I guess is what it is in part.
Yeah, I definitely think we do need a straight talking approach.
Yeah.
Where it does get upsetting. I think it was just too much too soon. And let me retract that a little bit. I was glad that everyone was sticking up for themselves, saying, "Hey, we deserve rights," and everyone, that was great. But then it was the minutia that we got bogged down with a little bit. Because every now and then you'd see a post where someone was like, "This guy was like, I'm a supporter of the Me Too movement. I believe we, women have gotten a raw deal of this," and everything he was saying was great. And then the last thing he said was, "And plus, I have daughters." And then everyone started attacking him by saying, it shouldn't matter if you have daughters. You should believe that anyway. And it's like, why did you ignore the 90% of great things he said to focus on the last thing? And when all he was trying to do was relate to you anyway. He was trying to, and I think a lot of that was social media. People forget Twitter was kind of bad before Elon. Yes. It's awful now. It's the worst place in the world. Like if it was a real place, nobody should go there. You know what I mean? It's an echo chamber. People saying, like, I don't, and that's what's going to be funny because these MAGA guys are eventually going to get sick of doing what they're doing. They're going in circles with each other.
I don't know. And so I have a listener called in yesterday and pointed me towards someone named, I can't remember the last name, but his name is Curtis. He's this wannabe philosopher. He's a software engineer that Elon Musk loves. And essentially, and he wrote a piece not too long ago after Donald's statements coming out and having this press conference that we need to remove all Palestinians from Gaza. And essentially, this guy wrote, he goes, I hope that people, he's kind of proud that it basically reflects exactly what he's been saying. He thinks that Gaza needs to be a corporate entity and that we need, that the land is more valuable without the Palestinians on it than there, right? Without them to be removed, and that and no solution other than but if you dig deeper into this guy's writings, it is essentially that we have to accept, we human beings, not even just Americans, but globally, we have to accept that there is a hierarchy, that whites are superior, that women are inferior, that essentially like the disabled should be compost. I mean, like, it goes on and on. And this is a guy that Elon Musk turns to. And so the white bros or whatever, he said the white guys are going to get tired of it. I think they will get co-opted into that mentality, into that thinking, because there's nowhere else to go. And that was why I was asking, like, a lot of people I've talked to who are Democrats, who are union members, and again, that's why I wanted to talk about, because we have another white guy on the line, like Jim in Chicago. Jim, you're a white guy. How come you and Joe have it right? But we're in this position, Joe. Jim and Joe.
Jim and Joe. Yeah, Jim and Joe sounds like a good restaurant to open up somewhere on Archer Avenue.
Good Italian beefs there.
Anyway, yeah. Did you see the hootenanny, the fascist hootenanny in Madrid? Victor Orban, the pin-up boy for the Republicans. Michelle Le Pen, her father was an insane. Insane fascist. And then president of Italy. And what are they screaming? What are they singing? Trump will take over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Trump will take over the world. They're serious too. I mean, they're serious. And what's bizarre about it, you've got there's South Africans. There's four South Africans. Think of this. One of them, Victor Keel, went to a Nazi school. They dressed in Nazi uniforms. The other screwball, they all made their money by fugitives from the Boer War. Musk's grandfather had an emerald mine that he stole from the Africans. So he made plenty of money with that. Not only that, but you know what emeralds? You know what emeralds? How do you find emeralds? You've got to get little children with little hands that go in there and get them, and they go blind. They go blind from the chemicals. But of course, they don't care about that.
And again, this goes to the point that people are disposable as long as they serve a purpose to meet your ends.
Well, but this is America, Patty. If you think for one moment that these Republicans are going to go fascist on us and get away with it, you got another thing coming. Because I guarantee you it isn't going to happen. Sooner or later, every fascist, I thought fascism died in Madrid with the death of Franco. I thought that was the end of fascism. That was about 1974. They suffered fascism from the 30s to the 74, and then right back to the same Democratic elections and the same Democratic Party that they got rid of in the 30s, the early 30s. So the same thing would happen here, but it isn't going to last that long here. Our problem is we've got a vice president who's loves this Musk character, and they really believe that they don't have to listen to judges. What's a judge to them? There's no law to those people. They don't have to have elections. Trump knows everything. Trump's a genius that knows everything. And he doesn't know everything, but he knows how to be dictated to by those 4 billionaire South Africans.
Yeah. What was it again? It was Peter Thiel, obviously Elon, and there's two other guys that were pretty much
they're all from South Africa.
Yeah, they're all PayPal guys.
Yep.
Yeah, PayPal, which is another blood-sucking organization. But remember, they're fugitives from the Boer War, from the, what is that, 1870, around there, when the Anglo-Saxons fought the Dutch for, to colonize another country like the Anglo-Saxons were great at, colonizing everywhere. And I heard a great Palestinian last night, a doctor from Palestine. He goes, if Trump wants to put us in different countries, why doesn't he start with New York? Why don't they put the New Yorkers in Afghanistan? We could use that property. I mean, this is how crazy this is. I mean, it's just the most crazy. I'm 75 years old, Joe and Dave, and I never thought I'd live to see fascism rise again from the 70s.
All it takes is the people in the right place with the right amount of money and power. I know, but here we are.
But Patty, you know what the real problem is? The internet. I thought the internet would be a discipline where they put well thought out theories and so on and so forth. It's turned into a nightmare. It's like a nightmare. You have people fascists all over the world. Why they want to be fascists? I don't know what is so attractive about being a fascist.
They want to turn this into Dune. It's the planet is their plaything.
Yeah, well, Dune. I don't know what Dune is, but I don't know what. I don't know why
basically.
Why do they anesthetized by this insane fascism? I mean, what happened in the 20s in Italy? What happened in the 30s in Germany? Those people, they must have wanted it deep in their soul. They must have wanted to be controlled and told what to do, and so there is no law.
And what would you say, Jim, was one of the biggest factors of World War II that prevented us from going over the edge? The young democracy that people here were willing to preserve, and we don't necessarily have those people in power anymore.
Well, my father did 4 years in the South Pacific, and all my uncles fought in the South Pacific. My father died young, but I played poker with all my uncles, and none of them ever talked about it. You wouldn't believe it.
I know.
If they came back from the grave. Now, they were talking about fascism, et cetera, et cetera. They wouldn't believe it. They just wouldn't believe this. They wouldn't believe this guy could be elected president of the United States. They wouldn't believe it.
I know.
But I don't know what happened to people. If people lost their memory, they don't have their sense of history.
Lack of education.
Yeah.
Huh?
Oh, this brings up a really good point. I got to take a break here because this is exactly what I've been thinking about for the last couple days, is what Joe just said, is a lack of education and a lack of wanting to be educated and a lack of wanting smart people doing the right things for people. Jim, I got to take a break. Thanks so much for calling.
Yeah, you guys. Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Patty.
All
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks. I guess the question to the break is, what would you rather? Would you rather?
Classic Chicagoan.
Would you rather have dumb MFers running the country or people who are educated? That's what it's been. Like, people are like, oh, I don't like the elite and the colleges, and they learned how to think. And Trump said I love the poorly educated.
Which, how was that not taken as an insult?
No, they're very proud of it.
Let's
talk about that when we come back. Would you rather? More on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. We're hanging out with comedian Joe Kilgallon. He'll be joining me on March 13th at Tata's Kitchen and Social on Irving Park Road over by there, right at Irving and Central. And we're doing tequila and shamrocks. I don't know if I've had you on for tequila and shamrocks, but it's right by St. Patrick's Day. So it'll be me, you, Jeannie Dugan, and Jaime De Leon.
Perfect.
Will be performing at Tata's Kitchen and Social. Dinner at 7:30. Get your dinner order going, and then we'll start our show at 8 o'clock. Again, that's on March 13th. More in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal.
You know that you can listen to Chicago's Progressive Talk on WCPT AM 820. Stream us live at WCPT820.com and on the TuneIn Radio app. Or you can ask Alexa, Siri, or Google to play WCPT from TuneIn. But now you have another option. We're simulcasting our programming overnight. 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. on WSBC AM 1240 for a clearer reception in and around the city. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. And now overnights on WSBC 1240 AM, where facts matter.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. Captain Hugh Molzak's love for the sea started after he finished high school, as he served the British Sooners and in 1918 immigrated to the United States. Within 2 years of joining the Marines, Molzak earned his Shipping Master Certificate, the first African American to do so. In 1921, Molzak was promoted to the rank of captain. In 1942, the SS Booker T. Washington, the first ship to be named after an African American, was created, and Molzak was offered the position of captain, but he turned it down at first, as the Marines did not want to have an integrated crew. Molzak stood firm on his beliefs, stating, under no circumstances will I command a Jim Crow, and Molzak became the first African American captain of the first ever integrated crew. Under Captain Molzak, over 18,000 troops were sent to the European warfront, and ships carrying tanks, aircrafts, and ammunition to United States troops in World War II. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
Or Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. I'm your host, Patti Vasquez, joined in studio by Joe Kilgallon, comedian Joe Kilgallon. And I don't know if you ever visit the Patti Vasquez show page, Joe, because I don't really post that much of my own personal stuff on Facebook anymore. It's just been a rough couple of years. I and Jerry Walski manage the Patti Vasquez show page, and sometimes we'll put something up. Sometimes it's Jerry, and I'll wake up to just a massive amount of nasty things in my DMs. And, well, I mean, I'm a progressive. So, anybody who talks politics opens himself up. But one of them is about how how vulnerable our democracy is and all these things. And like the number of people who are like, well, it's actually not a democracy, it's a republic. Holy crap balls. What are we doing here?
Yeah, that's. I found out that the people who say that just learn that, and they want to flex that knowledge. You know what I mean? I get really annoyed with where it's like, you know what I meant. You know what we mean. You know, like the act of voting and how sacred that is, and what separated us way back when. Although, even as a kid in the 90s, they still made it seem like we were the only country of freedom. And being an adult, it's laughable because it feels, you know what I mean? Although, Jim, who just called, reminded us that Spain had fascism until the 70s. The whole thing with stuff like that, you ever find it when you say, and you corrected yourself earlier, when you said free healthcare and then you switched
socialized,
it,
right? Because we don't want to
healthcare.
say socialized because it sounds like socialism.
Sounds like
And then
socialism.
people's brains explode.
But when you say free healthcare, people go, "Oh, it's not free.
Yeah,
it's not free. So someone has to pay for it." It's like, yeah, duh. Like no one calls the fire department is paid for by tax dollars too.
Which is socialism.
But when you consider that free, nobody says, "Oh, wait, I can't call the fire department. I don't have change on me right now," or whatever. You know what I mean? It's stupid. It's like, it's just.
And you even said it's stupid.
It is. It's stupid.
Why do we want dumb people running this? I don't understand it.
Well, people are feel inferior. Right, oftentimes, and for whatever reason, the Republicans do a very good job. I will give them credit. They are very good at marketing, and they're good at labeling and scaring people. And like you're right, the word socialism scares the heck out of people. And it shouldn't.
It shouldn't, and yet, and even when I use it, I remember I got into an argument with a young socialist, and he was, Bernie guy and all this stuff, and I get that, and he's an alderman right now, and I told him, I go, look, this is where it comes back to what you and I were talking about. Like, we don't help ourselves within our own community. And he's Latino. And I told him, I'm like, look, people my age and older hear socialism, even if it's democratic socialists, they hear social. You're letting the language work against you. And he goes, well, you're all going to die off soon anyway. Like, literally said that to my face. I'm like, here we are, dude, 10 years later with Trump as a president, because people don't know what a commie is or socialism is or leftists, or, we're all scrambling, and the post was featured a trans pride flag, which, Joe, 3.3 thousand comments.
Wow.
On one, I've never had that before, simply because of the trans pride flag image.
More comments than there probably are trans people on the north side of Chicago.
In the country.
I heard it was 800,000 people in the country.
800,000?
But out of 330 million,
right?
That's 0.00. So, I can't do the math on that. So, I know we're a fact station here, but it's an incredibly small percentage,
right, of
the country. And as far as athletes go, there was only 10 NCAA athletes.
Yes.
So all of this to stop 10 people.
And they're champions of women's sports. I was talking about this last week as someone who played sports in grade school through high school. I'm sorry, where were you? Where were all of you when they were calling us dykes?
Yeah.
When they were dismissing us and not funding our programs, and everything was broke. I have a chipped kneecap because I slid into second base and the spike was sticking out. I mean, nobody cared about women's sports. There's no victory here. There's nowhere on the level. I mean, although I will say the WNBA is fantastic, and I did love the Nike commercial. Did you watch the Super Bowl?
I watched Super Bowl, but I missed that commercial.
Oh yeah, it's a Nike commercial is really good. I actually did not watch anything except today. I watched the halftime today. I'm just curious. I'm like, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, no, Kendrick Lamar is an amazing performer.
Yeah, and there was a music teacher who was talking about how that C minor is actually brilliant. Like, there's something in it, and it's all white keys that are being used for it, which also symbolic, which I thought was interesting.
Well, you know the A minor reference too.
Yes, yes. Okay, there's a lot going on there. Let me take a break here. I want to. We're going to be joined by Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation area, who's going to join us and talk all things Wisconsin. We're in studio with comedian Joe Kilgallon, who will be at the Tequila and Shamrocks on March 13th at Tata's Kitchen and Social over by there on Irving Park Road, just west of Central. More after this.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. A winter weather advisory goes into effect on Wednesday. Tonight, light snow with a low temperature of 25 degrees. Wednesday, snow becomes heavier, 2 to 4 inches of accumulation with a high temperature of 29 degrees. Thursday, sunny with a high of 22 degrees. Friday, chance of snow with a high around 30. Saturday, snow likely with a high of 34. Sunday, chance of snow with a high of 19. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 25.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Collaboration Radio.
So let's go ahead and get him on the show. David Dismalchian.
I'm now sitting in a pretty incredible pool of gratitude. It's just like you imagine me right now, close your eyes, see a dude floating in a hot tub. The gratitude is right up to my chin, and I am grinning.
And you know, the nice thing about those hot tubs is that you can fart whenever you want. Nobody knows you farted, who farted. It's like fart free.
Collaboration Radio, Saturdays at 4.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
Thank you for joining us as we continue to drive home. Someday the off-air conversation will be podcast. I think that's what I should probably do, Joe.
That's a good idea.
Joe Kilgallon joins me in the studio. He's guest co-hosting today, and joining us on the line is the political editor for Civic Media and the publisher, writer, editor of the Recombobulation area, Dan Shafer. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well, Patty. How are you?
I appreciate your commitment to the answer, because when people ask me how I'm doing, I'm like, okay. I can't. It's too much. We were talking about flooding the zone. Do you feel the zone is being flooded with just the daily onslaught, the barrage of information, news?
Question.
Yeah.
No question. Yeah, it's everything everywhere all at once, isn't it? You know, it's just a constant barrage of information that I think, on purposely designed to exhaust us, confuse us, discombobulate us, whatever it is. And we're all just trying to make sense of things in our own way, aren't we?
We really are. I was thinking about Wisconsin in contrast to Illinois today, because you have a Republican majority, no longer a supermajority. That was one of the gains in this last election. Illinois does have a supermajority. And one of the things that the Republicans do in the General Assembly in Wisconsin is they punish blue areas, don't they, in their legislation and budget decision, don't they?
Always.
Yeah.
Always. It's especially with the political geography of the state of Wisconsin. It's always going after Milwaukee. It's always going after Madison, and sometimes other kind of blue dots around the state can get swept up into that, but it is so often it is the state of Wisconsin, Republicans versus Milwaukee versus Madison over and over again.
And the reason I was thinking about it was because I was watching a press conference with Governor Pritzker, right? And Pritzker's kind of trying to pick a few different lanes right now. I think he's got a sight set for maybe the next presidential. He also has really a tremendous amount that he's got to tackle now, whether it's funding. We have a budget hole ourselves. If there's federal funding that's cut, it could be worse than our budget impasse under Rauner. And I was thinking about this in that we don't do that. As far as I know, we don't. We still have. I remember this. My boss, Illinois Comptroller Susanna Mendoza, and I were at the state fair. I didn't know she was there. I was in the Democrats' volunteer tent, and this guy was yelling at volunteers. He's like, "Why, when I pay my taxes, why is all my money going to Chicago?" And I was going to go over there and do my best, right? And I hear this voice. "Oh, where do you live?" Right? And it was Comptroller Susanna Mendoza explaining how every dollar they pay in state taxes, they're actually getting back $1.50, $1.70 for their country roads, for their hospitals, all this stuff. And Chicago actually gets back less. We don't do, and I'm not saying we should, I'm just saying we don't. And I think that plays out. I mean, Republican General Assemblies strangle resources to their people over and over and over again in a very punitive way. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Wisconsin is, because the Assembly and the Senate in the state of Wisconsin has been under Republican control for so long, it's almost like they govern Wisconsin like it's some, southern red state instead of the very purple state that it is. And I think it is, it can punish blue cities and it will, kind of choke off the ability for cities like Milwaukee to kind of make its own decisions. 2 years ago, we had a really big legislative battle to just like figure out how to get funding to Milwaukee to just keep the lights on, to keep from having like really devastating budget cuts across the board in the city of Milwaukee 2 years ago. And, you know, the level of funding that they were able to commit to the city was just nowhere near what we needed. It kind of staved off and let us live to fight another day. But, you know, I feel like this is one of those common things that you have, you know, blue cities and red states, and Wisconsin isn't a red state, but the Republicans certainly govern it like it is. And so you often have this tension all over the place when it comes to, you know, finding, just finding Milwaukee's ability to thrive in so many ways. And it's interesting, too, because Madison in particular, you know, Madison and Dane County, that is the fastest growing part of the state of Wisconsin. And, you know, Republicans don't seem to really recognize that reality when they, you know, talk about this liberal drain on the state that Dane County and Madison is, when it couldn't be further from the truth. It's one of the only places in the state that is growing, that is thriving in this era.
Yeah, it's astonishing to me. By the way, show note, we will be in Madison, Wisconsin on February 18th, visiting the Minocqua Brewing Tap Room. And I love Madison. I love Milwaukee. And I love all the parts of Wisconsin that we do our volunteer work with Kenosha, Racine, in Walworth. And it's hard because so many of these volunteers work just day and night, doing the best they can. And obviously one of the big stories for us that we'll continue talking about is the Supreme Court of Wisconsin with a vacancy coming, working to make sure that Judge Susan Crawford is able to win that seat. Tell us a little bit about the Republican challenger in that race and some of the crazy things that he's putting out there.
Yeah, Brad Schimmel is the right wing candidate. You know, I think I'm actually working on a piece on this race too, and just taking a look back to kind of the timeline of it all. You know, Schimmel has been running in this race since November of 2023. You know, even before we had some people announce that they were running for U.S. Senate for the election that happened last year, Schimmel was running even before that. So I think, you know, in the past when you've had Republicans, you know, kind of limp to the finish line for some of these races, you know, that the liberal candidates have won, you know, in 2020 and in 2023 by double-digit margins, which in Wisconsin is just a landslide. And so I think this year they really have taken it seriously. Brad Schimmel is a much more experienced candidate, you know, for a statewide candidate than you know, some of the other candidates that have lost in these races. Schimmel ran and won as Attorney General in the state of Wisconsin. He was the Attorney General from he won in 2014. Ran from he was there from. He served one term as Attorney General, lost to Democrat Josh Kaul in the 2018 election. But, you know, he's got some pretty far-right views on a number of things. You know, he was defending January 6 rioters in a radio interview not too long ago. You know, he was one of the few you know, kind of purple state attorneys general to sue Planned Parenthood when he was in office. So he's got some very, you know, kind of extreme views when it comes to reproductive rights. And he was also one of the only things, I'm wondering if this is going to be kind of a story going forward, but he was one of the only attorney generals at the time who did not want to sue the pharmaceutical companies that were, you know, facing a lot of criticism and legal action when it came to opioid addiction. He was one of the, you know, he took money from the Sackler family and then was one of the only attorneys general to not go after them as well. And so, you know, opioid addiction has been a huge problem in many parts of the state of Wisconsin, and the fact that he's, you know, not stood up for them, stood up for victims at a time, you know, when that was really, really in focus. You know, just questions like the certain morality that he can have, you know, if he's accepting those donations and then not taking action when so many other people, you know, in a bipartisan way across the country were taking action kind of around that, you know, 2017, 2018, when that was really becoming a major issue. So, you know, he's got a lot of red flags, to be sure, but at the same time, you know, he's a better statewide candidate than what we've seen in a few other races for Wisconsin Supreme Court, just in the fact that he has ran and won as Attorney General in Wisconsin. So, not a high bar to clear to be better than Dan Kelly, who was the candidate who lost by an 11-point margin to Janet Protasiewicz 2 years ago. But he's able to at least clear that. So this is going to be a tough race, and it's we're now less than 50 days away from Wisconsin having another everything on the line state Supreme Court election. So it's a lot. It's a lot, Patty.
This guy sounds like an absolute twerp. That's how I'm going to start. We need to start fighting like that. Patty and I were talking off air about how the left needs to start fighting back. And this guy suing Planned Parenthood, sticking up for January 6ers, which are probably his relatives. This is what you need to do in the state of Wisconsin. Tell the voters there that this guy doesn't drink beer. Tell the voters there that he likes the Minnesota Vikings and he likes the Chicago Bears.
There you go.
And he doesn't like cheese, just things like that. And let him fight that fight because this guy, he sounds like a twerp. He really does. I don't like him.
That might have to be the way Democrats go because it didn't matter. Abortion rights. I'll tell you, Dan and Joe. I remember standing on porch after porch. I was in, I was in Kenosha, and even young women. And I would tell them, like, you guys have language in your Constitution or in your legislation that reverts back to the 1800s when it comes to your body. And they're like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, well. So maybe it is beer and cheese and the Packers. I don't know.
That's how you got to do it. I don't know how we didn't run against Trump by saying this man orders his steaks well done. And he eats pizza with a knife and fork.
Oh, God. Well, that's Chicago.
Right? That's how you win back Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, by pointing these things out, right? There's great blue-collar people in all of those states, hardworking family people. And the Republican Party is not hardworking family people. So
that's right.
You got to fight fire how you can. They've changed all the rules. They don't care. Remember when, I'm getting a little off topic here, but like Obama did like the least amount of executive decisions as executive orders of any president up until that point, or like for his first 6 months or whatever, and they acted like every one of them was just a threat against the Constitution. Meanwhile, Trump is just parading them out left and right, and they're applauding them all.
Yeah.
So, we got to do something different.
It is crazy.
And it starts in Wisconsin.
It does start in,
Let's go, Badgers. Come on. Do the right thing in this next election.
This is really the first, state level election test of the second Trump administration. I think many people out there in the political nerd universe have talked about this being, maybe the most important election happening anywhere in the country in 2025. The fact that it is a swing state, the fact that it is happening in the immediate wake, of Trump returning to office. I think this is, it's going to be interesting to see if people see this as just kind of, almost a referendum of sorts, of having some sort of state level checks and balances on the Trump administration as well, because I think previously when the court was under conservative control for 15 some years, that the right was really able to kind of just do whatever it wanted in Wisconsin when it was under Scott Walker and all of that. So Elon Musk has tweeted about this race. I wonder if kind of the play for Schimmel and the right-wing candidate here is to try to make this, if kind of their idea going into the election is saying, hey, Donald Trump just won Wisconsin. If all the Donald Trump voters from November show up in April, then we can win this thing. But, these spring elections in an off year, that's a very different electorate than a presidential election. So, and I think we've seen over and over again that Democrats and kind of left-leaning candidates have done better in these kind of special elections or midterms or what have you. So I think that is, one of the really, interesting pieces of this election that we're going to look to, for these next couple months running up to April 1st.
April 1st is almost, I think you're right. Everything you said sounds accurate. My only fear is that it hasn't been far enough away from November. Yeah. Because with like the next midterm, that's 2 years. So that's enough time for Trump's voters to be like, all right, I made a mistake. No one's going to admit to making a mistake by April 1st, although they should.
Well, I would say this because so my son goes to therapeutic day school, right? So a lot of programs were affected on that one day when what they tried doing that day when they blockaded funding for federal programs and grants. It's called impoundment. It was testing the fence, right? That's Mark Paoletta, who is the attorney for the OMB, for the Office of Management and Budgets. So they're trying to they want to say the president has executive power over everything, whether it's federal funding, whether it's the Treasury, all these things. Mark Paoletta and guys like him think that the president has the ultimate authority. That's why Vance thinks that they shouldn't care what the courts say. And what Dan and I talked about last week is that like programs like Head Start, have they been able to get back up and running with or are they closing facilities? Because some of these places are already closing because it sent them all into a absolute tailspin, right, Dan?
Yeah, it's been a real problem. I saw, last week that there were reports of a number of Head Start places in Waukesha County, one that had to close because they were just not able to access the funding. So this funding freeze is really having, a major impact. It's going to be, and I think in so many ways, I think Trump and Elon are just stress testing the system to see what they're able to get away with, see what type of guardrails really do still exist. And as they're doing that, they're just taking a wrecking ball to the foundations of government and to so many programs that people rely on. So, it's having real world consequences. And there was another one that I saw. There was another story. There was like somebody I know who was a candidate for state assembly, Lou Ann Bird, and her husband, is a veteran and gets care from the VA. Well, he was wondering if he was going to have to lose the connections that he had at the VA that he's built, over decades of getting care there. And might have to change the type of care that he gets at the VA in Milwaukee. There's so many of these that are just introducing so much uncertainty on so many levels. Yeah. And I think, on the other side of this is some pretty dire outcomes.
Well, and so the letter we got from my son's school was basically like, hey, we know there's been a lot in the news. Just want you to know your child is cared for here. You know what? Here's the thing. And I know I don't want to put, maybe there's a lot of fear. It's coming, providers. It is, and I don't know how to tell you this, but I would be as direct as possible. And there's nothing wrong with saying the executive orders are direct. I mean, just put out that letter. Because it's not untrue. You're not lying to the people that you provide, the elderly, the disabled, your child care centers. I think that sending out that letter saying the president's decision means that we don't have funding. Just boom. That happened when Governor Rauner cut all the programs across the state of Illinois, and it mobilized parents immediately. And we were still in a tailspin for 2.5 years, but at least people, for the most part, understood where it was coming from. The governor wanted to break the unions. And so we need to make sure that this is hammered home over and over again. You are losing. There's farms in Missouri that are shutting down because the grants to their programs are being cut, because the president made this choice. I think that's the only way to get this done. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is, people have to take this seriously. It's all these questions about do you take Trump literally or seriously or whatever. I think you have to start taking these things seriously because they, Elon and Doge and whatever else, they're just bold. They don't care what type of guardrails are in place. They're just going to bulldoze through everything. And I think you're right. You have to have some sort of contingency plans on what's going to take place if they are able to go forward with this just radical reshaping of what American government is.
Yep. Well, next week, maybe we'll talk about this guy, Curtis Yarvin, if you haven't looked into it yet. This guy was at the inauguration, and he basically calls everybody like we're in the land of hobbits and elves and Dune type sscenario, and that we should accept that there's a hierarchy of white male power and that kind of stuff. So fun stuff for your research if you want to know who Elon Musk is reading, just because that's what's basically unfolding. I hope you have a great week, and very sorry about your Bucks.
Well, we'll be all right.
I just read that you wanted to walk right into Lake Michigan, although we are moving to call it Lake Illinois. I hope that's okay with you.
Yeah, I think we're going to try and call it Lake Wisconsin. Just that you can just do these things now, I guess. Lake Milwaukee, can we call it Lake? I don't know.
Oh, I like that.
But yeah, bummer that the Bucks traded Chris Middleton. I'm still sad, but at least we're not the Bulls.
And that's fine. That's fair. Yeah, even Joe is like, no.
Yeah, we're pretty bad now, but I've got 6 rings that I could look back on fondly.
That's true. We've got the one from a couple of years ago.
That's nice. Yeah, you got recency bias.
Still
You got
celebrating that one. That's right.
Well, thank you so much for checking in with us and updating us on all things Wisconsin. It's Dan Shafer, the editor-publisher of the Recombobulation Area. Follow him on Blue Sky. Subscribe to his Substack and be a paid subscriber to support the work that he and other journalists do, because we need them to keep reminding you why this is happening. Oh, God, Dan. All right. Cheers.
Thanks, Patty. Be well.
I feel like we didn't leave that on a good note. Oh, I have to take you to. I took him to. By the way, Joe, I took Dan to the Billy Goat when he was in town, so that was fun.
Delicious.
Yes, very good.
Love the Billy Goat.
We'll do it again. Thanks, Dan.
Great time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good one.
I feel like I made him sad. I probably shouldn't have told him about this guy. I think we need to be reading this guy's stuff because this is what Elon Musk is reading. This is the playbook.
Why do all these white supremacists? They're just the very, very ugly looking people.
I mean, albino, hairless, slimy.
And there's nothing wrong with being an albino. There's nothing wrong with being ugly. But if you're ugly and you think you're the best and everyone else is beneath you, then there is something wrong with being ugly. It makes you uglier. It magnifies it.
It really does.
We've got this problem in this country of young, impressionable men, guys from the age of 17 to 26 who don't know how to talk to the opposite sex and they're feeling lonely. This is not the way to go about it, okay? And I know you're finding community with these other dudes and you're getting together and you're hating everyone. But trust me, it only makes you uglier. Right? If you are not attractive, you learn a personality, you learn how to be funny, you learn how to draw, you learn a skill, a trade perhaps, and then you find some people and then you'll be a much happier person and then you'll find someone to hold your hand.
I love it. Joe's telling you that celibacy is not involuntary. You're choosing it. More in a moment on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal. We got some calls to get to, and it's just me and Joe the rest of the show and you. More in a moment.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Strong Chicago continues to lead the way with progressive values and in preserving democracy. Your support of the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC efforts in Wisconsin and beyond strengthens the fight against MAGA Republicans. You can now purchase progressive beers like Labor Lager, Love Wins Fruited Sour, and the Resistance IPA in Chicago at Rogers Park Provisions, Diversity Beer, Wine, and Spirits in Lakeview, Park West Liquor, Wine, and Beer in Lincoln Park, Logan Square Liquors, and Tip Top Food and Liquors in Westtown. Visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com for all their Chicagoland locations. As always, no matter how bad our sports teams are, please drink responsibly.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
Thank you for joining me and Joe Kilgallon as we continue to drive it home. He'll be appearing with me on March 13th at Tata's Kitchen and Social over on Irving Park Road near Central. It's Tequila and Shamrocks featuring Joe Kilgallon, Jeannie Dugan, Jaime De Leon, and me, and some great food and drinks and gathering on the northwest side of Chicago, Joe.
Speaking of over there in the northwest side of Chicago, I came across a video on YouTube. I'll send you the link of Billy Corgan talking about, Smashing Pumpkins fame. Yeah. Talking about writing the song, can't remember which song it was, one of the ones off of Siamese Dream that was really big, maybe Today or something like that. And he literally says Addison and Austin. He said, I was waiting
really?
for a friend to pick me up. I was over.
It's over by the hospital.
He goes, I was living. Yeah, it's Central Madison. But about 4 blocks west of there,
I'm
though.
trying to think where Austin hits.
Yeah, he said there's a gas station, a Subway, or Walgreens.
Yep, got it.
Yeah, so he was. He shouted out Addison and Austin. I guess he was living over there at the time.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. It's literally over by there.
Over by there.
We were talking earlier in the first half hour about one of the posts. So we have a post up on the Patti Vasquez show page. We encourage you to like the page. We gained 2,000 new followers over 2 days because of a caustic post. But one of the memes we put up was democracy isn't dying in darkness. The Republicans are murdering it in broad daylight, which spurred a bunch of people writing things like, that's because we aren't a democracy. We're a republic. Democracy, that's fine because America doesn't have one of those. Anyway, our listener in Detroit wanted to talk about this topic as well. How are you doing today, Andrew? Thank you so much for calling from Detroit.
Hey, Patty and Joe, what a fantastic show. This is the best show I've heard on radio in the last 2 weeks. The things I have heard and what I've learned. Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Democrats have to learn how to speak. We have to learn how to flood the zone.
Yes.
Just like the Republicans have. We've got to have our representatives and senators speaking constantly, and we also need to find airspace like they have Fox News, OAN, this, that. We need to find a source where their voices can be heard, and we've got to remember to always pronounce it democratic.
Yes.
And
Democratic Party.
And the other thing, yes, the other thing, we know we live in communities. We know we live in societies, but maybe those terms have to slowly come out of the conversation because they're just going to throw it back in our face. Oh, communism, community, socialism, society. Yeah, okay. So talk around that stuff. And with a voice, we've got to have a voice that is as loud and as strong as and aggressive as theirs. And also with the people that are being left behind, like with these tariffs, if the farmers out in the Midwest are being affected by the tariffs, if people building aren't going to be able to get the supplies from Canada or China, we've got to sweep in to those people and say, we never would have let you down like this.
Exactly.
We're always there for everyone.
Yep. Well, that's the thing.
We have to learn how to speak.
We need more messengers, too. But I'm saying even the providers, they don't have to be political about it. Just be matter of fact and truthful.
Do you hear that, DNC? Hire Andrew out of Detroit.
Yes!
That was perfect. I agree with you 1,000%.
With the DNC, I mean, here we go. We've got March Madness coming up. Why isn't the DNC planning on doing a media blitz like the Republicans did during the NFL? And why just now are we voted in this one? We voted. Thank you, David Hogg. I'm glad you're there. Why aren't we being as aggressive always as the Republicans? We have to do this. So we have to do it with a strong voice, and they're going to beat us. They're going to beat us if we don't beat them at their own game. And the voters have to always check. We've got midterms coming up. You have to check constantly if you are enrolled.
Yep.
You have to, the day before the election, have they taken you off the ballot? And if you live in a black area, oh, you bet your life they're looking on how to strip you from your voting rolls.
All great points. We're so grateful for you calling in. It's the first time you called us, Andrew?
Yes, it is. I do listen to the show, but you know what? This is now going to be a new rule. Your show tonight and the people you've talked to, fabulous. Best on the air. Yep. I'm listening every night from now on.
I love it. Oh, boy. That's a lot of pressure for you, Joe.
Thank you so much. I got to start coming up more often.
Yeah. Don't wait for me to call you, man. I told you that before.
I know.
All right. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
We look forward to talking to you again.
Night.
All right. We're Democratic.
Fight.
Thanks.
Fight.
Fight. That's right. Yeah, flood the zone, man. Let's get going. Let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation. I've got the phone lines lit up, but we've got a couple open. 773-763-9278. You can call or text to join me and Joe Kilgallon in this conversation.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
Could your birth month predict your health destiny? Dr. Nicholas Tatanetti from Columbia University led a study that analyzed a sample of 1.7 million people.
Actually, over the last few decades, scientists have been identifying some of these connections. For example, one of the most well-studied is a connection between asthma and the month that you're born in. If you're born during a time of year that has high amounts of dust mites, which are hot, muggy times of the year, then you're actually more likely to have asthma later in life. That was a finding that we were able to recapitulate in our analysis. But on top of that, we analyzed over 1,600 different diseases, and we found 55 that showed these types of patterns.
Among his findings, November babies were at the highest risk for developing ADHD, and babies born in March face the highest risk for several types of heart problems. With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
If better health, more energy, and detoxing your body are some of your priorities this year, get Active Liver today. You can find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. The Federal Appeals Court has refused to halt a judge's order requiring the Trump administration to release billions of dollars in federal grants and loans that it's frozen. Sagar Meghani reports the House Speaker says the courts should back off.
Speaker Mike Johnson says he wholeheartedly agrees with Vice President J.D. Vance, who has criticized courts for trying to control President Trump's power.
The courts should take a step back and allow these processes to play out.
That came as several judges issued rulings temporarily halting some Trump actions.
Judges appointed by Ronald Reagan, George Bush, and Donald Trump himself.
California Democrat Ted Lieu says it's clear the administration's acting illegally and the legal system is working. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A new lawsuit accuses the Trump administration of stiffing businesses of hundreds of millions of dollars in unpaid bills for work already done amid its dismantling of the U.S. Agency for International Development. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says Americans' bank accounts are safe despite the Trump administration's shutdown of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, telling the Senate Banking Committee,
bank accounts overall across the economy are safe. Yes, we've still got deposit insurance at the FDIC, and the banking system is well capitalized and safe.
President Trump renewed his insistence that Gaza can be emptied of its residents, controlled by the U.S., and redeveloped as a tourist area, telling reporters in an Oval Office meeting with Jordan's King Abdullah,
I think it's going to be something that's going to be magnificent for the Palestinians. They're going to be in love with it. I did very well with real estate. I can tell you about real estate. They're going to be in love with it.
The king later posted in that meeting he had reiterated Jordan's steadfast position against the displacement of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's threatening to resume fighting in Gaza if Hamas does not release hostages as planned Saturday. This is AP News. There are a lot of dogs on hand tonight in New York. Good dogs, where the Westminster Kennel Club will crown its best in show. Julie Walker has a preview.
It all comes down to tonight at Madison Square Garden. Who will be top dog at the Westminster Dog Show? Yesterday's group winners include the Shih Tzu Comet, who won for the second straight year, Bourbon, a Whippet, Neil, a Bisson Frise, and Mercedes, the German Shepherd who was Westminster's runner-up last year. They will all go up against today's group winners once this round of the competition is over. Westminster Kennel Club President Donald Sturtz says you never know who will win.
Westminster is known for upsets, and some future great dog could be starting its career at Westminster.
About 2,500 dogs signed up to compete. Julie Walker, New York.
And I'm Ben Thomas, AP News. Thanks for listening.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. A winter weather advisory goes into effect on Wednesday. Tonight, light snow with a low temperature of 25 degrees. Wednesday, snow becomes heavier, 2 to 4 inches of accumulation with a high temperature of 29 degrees. Thursday, sunny with a high of 22 degrees. Friday, chance of snow with a high around 30. Saturday, snow likely with a high of 34. Sunday, chance of snow with a high of 19. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 25.
Join me and WCPT Radio at the Southland Friends of Labor 16th Annual Jobs Breakfast, Monday, February 24th. We will be in Joliet at IBEW Local 176. This special union event is free to all active and retired union members and all WCPT listeners. Come and enjoy a great breakfast and WCPT's special broadcast with me. Guests being interviewed include Andy Rico, Business Manager, IBEW Local 176, Bob Howard, President of the Chicago and Western Lakesport Council, and Stephen Powell, President of Local 881 UFCW. Doors open at 7:30. If you want to attend, please call or text 708-996-1291 and leave a voicemail to save a seat. Free to all WCPT listeners and active and retired union members. See you on the 24th.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Patti Vasquez hanging out with Joe Kilgallon as we continue to drive it home. Hello to our friends listening on KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota. So glad to have you here as we broadcast from Chicago at WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. And of course, I know when the sun goes down, it gets a little harder to listen to us on your kitchen radio or in your car. So make sure you have the TuneIn app downloaded. And don't forget that all of our shows are podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, like on Amazon and Apple and all those places. We have featured interviews as well. And we look forward to continuing our conversation. Joe, the phone lines are lit up. And the
people want to be on the show.
They do want to be on the show. And I'm glad that you're on the show. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
You'll make it more often, I hope.
Yes, absolutely.
And I probably should send you like a guest list. I probably should have given you a heads up on Dan Shafer because as a guest co-host, you probably want to know who the guest is. Probably is helpful to know.
That would be helpful. Sure.
Yeah, I probably should have done that. It's called show prep.
You did send me a link to a funny video, though.
I can't remember what I sent you. Which one? Well, red, white, and the Greenland, buying Greenland?
Yeah, some Georgia
oh my God.
politician or congressman wants to make an actual bill. Mm-hmm. In which the United States will purchase Greenland, which is not for sale.
No.
And I think Trump's one of those people who's probably looking at a globe and thought, that land is close to us. Why don't we just get that?
Yeah.
Greenland has like 48,000 people. It's completely unlivable. I don't understand this dire need. And Denmark is, like we said earlier, they're joking around going, we're going to buy California then.
Do it. Do it. I think the economy of California is like one of the, and Illinois too, we're like amongst the top 10 economies in the world.
Yeah, California, I believe, was sixth. It was its own country. And I know people around would be like, well, they're in a deficit, though. I'm like, so is every place.
Yeah.
So are you. It's called, you have a credit card. Don't you have a credit card? You know what I mean? You have a house.
Don't tell my family I have a deficit.
Well, some debt is good, though, in a way. Like you buy a house, you pay for that.
You survive.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
It's a home. It provides for you. You take out money for a college loan. You get educated. There are some things worth it. I'm sorry I'm ranting here, but I definitely want to say this to everybody. I cannot stand when people say, I have to live within my budget. Why doesn't the government have to live within theirs? Because they're different things. You know what I mean? One's a government, the other's an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, how are you comparing yourself to the government of the United States? When you get mad at a neighbor, you can't send 100,000 troops over there. So It's a big difference.
Yes.
Is all I'm trying to say.
Well, and to your point, and we've been talking about this a little bit, and goes back to Rauner, to Trump, why people voted for them. Well, they're wealthy, they're successful businessmen, they're billionaires, they know how to run a business, right? First of all, no. But secondly, to your point, a government is also not a business. It's not supposed to operate in a surplus. It's not supposed to make I'm talking too fast. Yeah. It's not supposed to make a profit. And what happens when a company is starting to struggle or they can't meet their, they ask for subsidies, they get bailouts, they do stock buybacks. Like there's none of that. They fold, they claim bankruptcy. Like what do you want the state? And this goes back to this guy that somebody opened me up to this nightmare of this blogger that Elon Musk reads and was at the inauguration. Curtis Yarvin essentially believes that that the democracy is broken from the inside, that we may as well destroy it, which is why all those people on my feed are like, it's a republic, it's broken they want to get there. I didn't know there were that many people that wanted to get rid of this.
Well, the thing is, because they love America so much, they want to destroy it.
Yes.
Right? It's too soon still. When we were talking to Dan, and he was talking about this is the first big election up in Wisconsin that the nation will focus on. You need more time for people to admit they were wrong on things. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to come out. Very few people who voted for Trump this November, they might be talking within their own circles going like, oh, he took away meals from wheels and my great aunt, depends on that. What do I do? They might do that, but they're not going to come out loud just yet and say they made a mistake. Mm-hmm. They just won't. So there's going to need to be more time. And once more time happens, then I think they'll maybe start to come around, but we're not going to be able to convince them at the moment. And we could shine a light and all that stuff. And it's just, you got to ignore them for the time being, I think.
I agree with that. And to the point we were making earlier, though, I think every single time something happens, every single time you hear about a farm has to shut down its business or fire people, or a Head Start facility closes down, or people aren't getting their paychecks, you have to tell them. Because the president, and it's not political to tell your employees, to tell the people in your community, because of the president's decision, we will no longer provide this service. That is not being political. That is being truthful. Do it, folks. Do it. Sorry.
No,
I don't know why I'm yelling at Joe. It's just that you're the person in the room.
No, well, hey, I like.
Do it. Sorry.
That's just how we talk. That's our Irish blood coming out. It's just yelling. I remember one time I had a friend who was hanging around my family. He's like, "Why are you guys all yelling?" And I'm like, "No, we're talking. What are you?" And then we all made fun of him for pointing that out.
I've had people say, "Why are you yelling at me?" I'm like, "I'm not. I'm just passionate."
Yes, but that's just It is very annoying, but yeah, you're right. You have to point it out, call them on it. It's not political. I had a post today, and I try not to get too political on Facebook. Other platforms I will a little bit more. Right. Blue Sky. I remember everyone was upset when President Biden pardoned his own son.
Yeah.
Where are those same voices when President Trump pardons Governor Rod Blagojevich?
Oh, my God.
Blagojevich, what he did to the state of Illinois was way worse than what, Hunter allegedly did or didn't do. Also, I could respect someone for pardoning their own son way more than pardoning some guy that you hung out with on a reality show a couple times. We talk about elitism. It's like, they're dorks. Why can't we just call them dorks more often?
They're such dorks. Thank you very much. Although I consider myself to be a dork, but it's different.
No, you're a nerd.
Am I a nerd? Okay.
No, you know why? Because you have intelligence.
Oh.
Nerds are people with passion towards a specific thing, but they're also intelligent about it. Mm-hmm. A dork is someone who's really into something with no intelligence behind it.
I will take that as a qualifier.
I made that up completely. I have no idea if that's right, but I think it is.
I always thought that I was a dork because I'm socially awkward. Is a big component of it. You haven't been around me enough. You come into show space. We hardly have ever hung out socially, and you'd be like, "Oh,
that's true.
Holy moly, that's Patty's a lot." But I'll take nerd. I will take nerd. But here's my thing about Blagojevich, and you're right. And there are people again posting on my wall today about how he has suffered enough. And let me tell you something, folks, that drives me crazy sometimes. And obviously, what's going on nationally, it keeps me awake. But when Governor Blagojevich was being indicted, I don't think people know this, but that was when our credit rating started to be downgraded. And we could not, the state of Illinois, the comptroller, and at that point, I think it was Judy Bartopinka, could not write checks for services because they were caught in the middle of this legal situation. They didn't know what was going to happen next. And we were in the hallway at Resurrection Hospital. Declan, there's a program called Early Intervention for Children with Developmental Delays. And she said, "You guys are so lucky that you are aging out because I'm not getting paid. I'm going to drop all of of my early intervention patients. And I did not feel lucky. I was sad for families like mine who were going to go through the pain, the torture of not being able to help their child and afford it. And so that was the first round of that. And then under Rauner, the number of people who quit because some of these providers during that budget impasse weren't being paid for 6 months. Can you imagine doing your job for a year? Now you're taking out, to your point, a line of credit to survive because you have to. So now today in 2025 in the state of Illinois, right. For example, for comparison, when Declan was born in 2005, we got services immediately while he was in the hospital because he was born medically fragile, right? So they were in there moving him around, trying to get his muscles working. And today, it is 1 year. If Declan were born today, the way he was in 2005, I would be on a wait list. I would be told that, and maybe they would prioritize him because of his medical fragility at birth. But there are people waiting a year to get services and make sure that their child can have even the chance at reaching their potential. And there's so many people I want to call and say, see what you did. And so to the people who say that Blagojevich didn't suffer enough, screw you. And to the people who think that it wasn't that big of a deal, and to I'm so mad. The 3 Democrats who voted against the millionaire tax in 2015, there were 3. It was Franks, Duncan, and Drury. Voted against raising the million to the million, just $1 million millionaires, right? We voted for it. I don't know if you remember this on that ballot.
I do remember that, yes.
And they voted against it. I don't even want to get into the detail, but I want to call them and be like, you did this. And for the people who didn't vote for the progressive tax, who fell for the lies from Ken Griffin, I'm like sweating. I'm so mad. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
all of this, every step of the way, we hurt ourselves.
You perfectly illustrated how we literally have gone backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Your son was better off being born in 2005 than in 2025.
Yep.
That's awful. That says so much about us as a society that we should all collectively be ashamed.
Yeah.
Just no matter who you voted for,
right?
That it would have been better being born 20 years ago than today.
Yep.
That's not moving forward.
Unfortunately, actually, that was Blagojevich's program under all kids, but there were problems. But anyway, at least we had a potential. I have gone on a rant. We have to take a break and then get the phone calls.
But listeners,
How
we
long was
apologize.
that?
We'll apologize. We're going to get you.
Unless Joe rants, and then we'll get to you.
I will not rant.
I'm kidding.
I want to hear from them.
More in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland. So reset. I'm going to take a deep breath. Let me do this during the break. Let me just, I'll go ahead. Let's take a break.
A Better Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
As a society, we are more connected than ever before, but as individuals, we are lonelier than ever as well. It is a modern-day paradox. 1 in 5 adults report feeling lonely, quote, a lot of the day, according to a recent Gallup poll. About 2 years ago, in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. Surgeon General declared loneliness an epidemic. It doesn't just feel bad, but loneliness and isolation are linked to health concerns, such as sleep problems, inflammation, depression, anxiety, and a shorter lifespan. Making new friends and deepening relationships is hard. While you work on that, though, one thing you can do is prioritize even just a small bit of interaction in your day-to-day. Psychiatrist Gail Salt suggests when you run errands, just chit-chat. At the coffee shop, say, hey, how's your day going? You might be surprised at how good it makes you feel. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Mornings can start feeling the same. Wake up, brush teeth, go to work. But with breakfast from Wendy's, it's like, wake up, brush teeth, Baconate with a breakfast Baconator. Roll with the sausage breakfast burrito. Buddy it up with a honey buddy. Or get seasoned with seasoned potatoes. And then go to work. Sorry. When you're ready for a fresh wake-up call, gotta be Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar.
Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Joining me in the studio is comedian Joe Kilgallon. By the way, that was our new sponsor, Source Solar. Go to source.solar to learn more about the great work they do. I'm actually going to have them come out to the house and see if my house qualifies to get solar panels. I'm kind of excited about that. And Peter and Warren will be joining us in the next couple weeks to talk about how you can find out if your house is right for it. And basically, there's certain situations where maybe there's not enough room on your roof, but yeah, I'm excited. There aren't that many people on the Northwest Side, Joe, as you imagine, that have solar energy.
Well, I'm sure Trump's going to make an executive order banning solar panels.
I am a little nervous about that.
It's a little too pro-sun for his liking, maybe. He's very orange.
That's why I'm so excited to work with Source Solar. It's going to be exciting.
Remember when that dope looked at an eclipse?
Oh my God!
Anyway, we got to get to callers. I'm sorry. I'm going to go on.
Remember when it was mildly funny to talk about him, and now it's like I can't.
It's not anymore. It really is. You see, you banned plastic straws.
Oh my God!
Executive order of plastic straws.
Thank God. Well, but just in the way.
Or not plastic straws, paper straws.
Paper straws. But no, today it was the pressure in toilets, like the flushing ability of toilets. He wants that removed, and my husband was like, "Well, how else are you going to get all that paperwork down the?"
Yeah, exactly. Jesus.
Documents. All right. I know we've left you guys on hold for a bit. Hey, Matt, Patti Vasquez. Why does it say this? Matt, how are you doing? Matt? I've pushed all the right buttons. I know I have. Matt, do you have me on mute? If you have me on mute, I'm going to come back to you.
Matt.
I had Matt on hold, ready to go for like 10
It's
minutes.
my dad and son's name. I want to hear from Matt.
Matt. All right. Let's get to Dave from Hoffman Estates. Matt, I'm going to come back to you. Oops, let me put that on hold. There's that. Hey, Dave, how are you doing?
Hey, Pat, it's Joe. You guys were talking last hour about renaming things. It's funny you should, because I read a story yesterday where Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth signed an order to rename the Special Operations Forces base back to Fort Bragg. And, the one that the Biden administration had called Fort Liberty.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And that to get rid of the ones that are Confederate leaders. And the original Bragg was General Braxton Bragg. And the Confederate general was, from North Carolina, was known to owning slaves and losing key Civil War battles, contributing to the Confederacy's downfall. Well, the Pentagon spokesman said that Hegseth was renaming the base to honor a different guy named Bragg, a PFC Roland L. Bragg, who he said was a World War II hero who earned a Silver Star and a Purple Heart for his exceptional courage during the Battle of the Bulge. Good old Pete, he's a slick one, and this choice of the World War II PFC got around the law prohibiting the military from naming the base after a Confederate leader. But in reality, even the troops and stuff, they still kind of referred to it as Fort Bragg. They never really warmed up to the Fort Liberty, but kind of like Chicagoans, never really warmed up to the Willis Tower. It's still the Sears Tower,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll always be the Sears Tower, too. That's what a weird loophole. So he was going to rename it back to Bragg, who was obviously a loser.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's what we got to start
A traitor. They're
a traitor
traitors.
and a loser. You
Yep.
lost your battles. You lost your war. You don't get to be honored when you're a traitor and a loser.
Mm-hmm.
And you own human beings, so you're a scumbag on top of that. Let's just call it the way it is. And then he finds a loophole to find a PFC, as you said. You know, how many forts are named after a private first class, though? That's really impressive.
I mean, it is impressive. And they didn't even tell the family. They called and left them a message. The daughter found out from a reporter who called and asked her what she thought. Like,
wow.
They really did a lot of work on this.
He signed an order, so it was done. So,
God, this is insane.
Fort Liberty sounds pretty cool, actually.
Didn't
it?
You know, so they're kind of slick at it. You know, he gets around and that. And so he gets out as we're waiting on that. I seen this morning, I didn't pay attention to what town and that it was in, but they had a great egg heist. They had this one that was under the cover of darkness. They had to film these people. They snatched up like 500 eggs out of the restaurant.
That's about $3,000 right there.
Jeez, I saw a guy make a video out of Costco, and like there was an hour line to get. What are people? I mean, I don't need eggs that badly. I guess.
You know, they're still only like $4.39 at Aldi the other day.
There you go.
I think they stole it. I think they stole it from one restaurant, you know, for themselves. So it might have been an inside job. I don't know.
Oh, they tipped someone off, Dave. You're right.
I have never cared about the price of eggs until today. Like I was at that French market at Ogilvy, and there were hard-boiled eggs. I'm like, $2 for 2 eggs. That's about right. I mean, whatever.
Sure, yeah.
You already cooked it for me. That's fine.
Listen, I know others have been waiting a bit. So
Thanks. I
anyway,
appreciate it.
I thought I'd just share them tips with you guys. Good night.
All right, take
Great
care.
story, Dave. Thank you for calling.
Thank Dave. Let's see who's been on hold longest. Next, Jennifer's been on hold for quite a while. Let's get to Jennifer. Jennifer, thanks for calling in. You're in with me and Jim, with Joe Kilgallon. What's on your mind, my friend?
Hey, Patty. A couple of things. First of all, the next time somebody tells you we're a republic, say no. We are a representative democracy. We democratically vote for the representatives that we send to Washington. Mm-hmm. Number one. Number two, what you were saying about treating our government like it's a business. So wrong. We're society. And that's more like a family than it is like a bad business. You wouldn't go to Grandma and say, you know what, Grandma, you're costing us a little too much, and we've got to cut expenses, so we're letting you go.
Yep.
You know?
Yes.
You take care of the people that are part of your society. They're part of your family. And last but not least, the reason we got here is because of Citizens United.
Yes.
Yes, Jennifer.
Of millionaires and billionaires owning our government, and we should have publicly funded elections, and we should limit the amount of time they can campaign to 6 freaking months. Every other country on the planet can do it.
And election day off.
And mandatory voting like Australia.
Yes.
I love it, Jennifer.
And fine people if they don't vote, like they do in Australia.
Put this in the agenda. Put this on the Project 2028.
You know, just like was it Anthony in
there you go.
Detroit? Jennifer needs to be more. You need to be more. We need to put you in charge of the DNC.
Have a panel.
Thank you.
And our friend from Detroit. I love it, Jennifer. You have a great night. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you. You too.
People are fired up. Have a great night. We'll talk to you again soon. Yeah, all the things.
Everything she said was dead on.
I can't. I don't even. And I was going to mention when. During the COVID, the pandemic, I remember there was a guy on Fox who said that, because seniors were dying at a much greater rate. Obviously, they were vulnerable or in communities, in healthcare facilities. And the part of it was because some of the caregivers were going home. And there was LaSalle Veterans Facility in Illinois. People don't realize over 100 people died at a veteran facility. And they traced it back to a Halloween party that was. They weren't supposed to be gathering, right? So, but do you remember this guy going on? I can't remember who it was, and I can Google it. But he said, our grandparents, they're ready to die for their country, like they're ready to go. Do you remember this?
I vaguely remember this.
This is because they do think that people are disposable. To Jennifer's point, they don't believe we live in a society.
Well, yeah, because you can't stop the economic machine at all. That was the big thing that killed me about the pandemic was
yes.
They were putting, if you wanted everyone to stay home And both parties probably you could shine a light on both of them for blame for both of this. They should have had a freeze on rent and mortgage. You know what I mean? I really thought that would have been a smart move as well. But the thing is, the banks who fund all this because of what Jennifer said with Citizens United, they would never have gone along with that. And that's why I really do think most billionaires are sociopaths. They have something wrong with them that kind of makes them a little evil, a little psychopathic, that makes it where, because they become obsessed with watching the numbers go up.
Yes.
Like any normal person, if they hit even 100 million, they'd be like, I'm done. I'm retired. I'm going to go donate money to people. I'm going to go have a good time. I'm going to go sit on a beach, not run for office and destroy people's lives.
I mean, what is it? It was the lieutenant governor of Texas argued in an interview that people should go back to work, saying grandparents don't want to sacrifice the country's economy during the coronavirus, and said the elderly are ready to die.
Yeah, how about you sacrifice for your grandparents? You twerp. See, again, we need words like that again. That's a good word to use on the radio, too. It's not going to offend anybody, really.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Just go back to work so we could, okay, I can't. Let's take a break. I'm sinking back into the emotions of I had a very good friend of mine who, okay. All right, then. And these people lost people and just probably went, we do it. Yeah. Before we go to the break, to your point about it's too close, right? That to change things or to get it through to people that their choices have an impact directly on their lives now. I don't necessarily think it'll matter in 2 years either, Joe. Because we had the pandemic, right? And the message of it's somebody else's fault. The vaccines, the masks, the remote learning, the inflation, which, we can talk about whether or not Democrats did a good job messaging and all those things. They always deflect. It's always somebody else's fault. It's never their choices. It's never something that they can go, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. I should really change. No, it is so deeply entrenched. What we do need are the people who stayed home. What we do need is to make sure people aren't thrown off the voter rolls, like our friend from Detroit said. I think that's the only space that we can operate from. So it's encouraging people to get off the couch, to get off the sidelines. And hopefully those are the ones who will see that April's an opportunity in Wisconsin to rectify, at least in some small measure, what's coming.
I agree. That's where the focus should be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the people who didn't show up. Man, oh man, it's so much work. I have to go back to Wisconsin. Want to come to Wisconsin? I have to bring the whole family. We'll go door knocking. Take a break. After this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, hanging out with comedian Joe Kilgallon. He'll be at Tata's Kitchen and Social with me for Tequila and Shamrocks on March 13th with Jeannie Dugan and Jaime De Leon. We'd love to see you there. It's an 8 p.m. show. All right, let's take a break.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. A winter weather advisory goes into effect on Wednesday. Tonight, light snow with a low temperature of 25 degrees. Wednesday, snow becomes heavier, 2 to 4 inches of accumulation with a high temperature of 29 degrees. Thursday, sunny with a high of 22 degrees. Friday, chance of snow with a high around 30. Saturday, snow likely with a high of 34. Sunday, chance of snow with a high of 19. That's the latest Chicago weather update.
Right now, it's 26.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
WCPT replay.
Kate Lincoln Goldfinch, immigration attorney.
What we're going to see in these apprehensions and these detentions, of course, is the utilization of racial profiling. How else is a police officer going to suspect someone of illegal entry? And ultimately, at the end of the day, what's underneath all of this? Why is there resistance to immigration, to people who are different than us being in our country? It's because we're afraid of people who look and sound different. It's a feature of humanity, and it's also a futile effort for people who want to resist change in our demography. It is futile. So we're just going to keep having this battle, and I think all of us, of course, it's incumbent upon all of us to resist anything that looks and sounds and feels like racism, which this is.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Race to savings at Menards and start updating your home today. We have what you need to give your bathroom a fresh, updated look. Shop Menards' great selection of bathroom products from American Standard. No matter the size of your bathroom, American Standard offers a superior line of toilets, faucets, sinks, and bathtubs. Complete your bathroom update today with American Standard. Plus, view our weekly flyer on Menards.com and race to savings on all the great deals happening this week.
Save big money at Menards.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Hi, this is Patti Vasquez. We appreciate all our fans of Driving It Home, and your support of show sponsor Minocqua Brewing Company ensures that our important conversations continue right here on WCPT each weekday from 5 to 7 p.m. You can now find the Resistance IPA, Labor Lager, or the Resistance Pilsner beer at several Illinois locations, including Arminetti Wine and Spirits in Woodstock, Pineapple and Company in North Riverside, Lions Beverage Depot in Arlington Heights, and MP's Liquor, Wine, and Beer in North Aurora. For a full list of Chicagoland locations, please visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. As always, please vote and drink responsibly.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Comedian Joe Kilgallon joins me in studio. You can find all of his comedy clips on YouTube, on Instagram. Your podcast is available on YouTube?
Yes.
I like your shows.
Thank you so much.
I like the set too. I know it's a shared podcast on that, right? With the liquor.
That's actually comedian Jonah Jerkin's basement.
Get out of here!
He's got a really sweet setup with all these whiskey bottles. He collects whiskey bottles.
They're lit it's really pretty.
Yeah, it's backlit, which is really cool.
Yeah, I like the look of that one. So check out Joe Kilgallon's podcast. What's the name of that one?
It's called Let's Get Dumb.
Let's Get Dumb, and I like it because you do a good job of incorporating clips and talking about like movies and things like that. Yeah.
That's a podcast where I'm like, I need an outlet to just be silly, like with the episode that comes out tomorrow, we did top 5 appetizers. So we're just arguing over what the better appetizers are. And you kind of need that outlet in society today.
Okay, I think that mozzarella sticks are really difficult to do well. I just want to say that.
To do well?
To do well. There's a couple, like Frank's Pizza does a nice job. And I would argue Chicago Pickle is we order Uber a lot.
I haven't had Chicago Pickle. Frank's Pizza I like a lot. On Belmont there near Agansett.
Oh, right there? Yeah.
Over by there.
Really good.
I'll just give everyone my top 5.
Yes, please. No.
No, I got to tease it.
Yeah, tease me. Just give me just the 5th, not the number 1.
All right, number 5 for me was shrimp cocktail.
Really?
Yes, I love that as an appetizer.
Raw shrimp. Just they get hooked around the glass.
I like a spicy cocktail hooked around the glass.
Okay.
It's like almost like a big chalice.
Yes.
With shrimp and ice there.
Okay.
It's got a nice presentation.
Nice.
And then I like a spicy cocktail sauce. That was my number 5. I'll give you my number 4, my number 3, and then you have to listen.
Okay, for number 2 and
to
1.
Let's Get Dumb wherever you get your podcast.
I love this.
For the last
Okay.
2. Number 4 was mozzarella sticks.
Okay. What's your favorite place to get those though?
There's a place on Addison near Elston. It's on White Castle. And
I'm sorry.
White Castle actually has good mozzarella sticks.
Get out of
That's
here.
not my favorite, though. That's not my favorite. I like pizza on Montrose.
Okay.
They've got very good. Actually,
never
great
tried pizza.
calamari, too. But calamari was in my honorable mention for appetizers.
Yeah, because that can be rubbery. It's got to be done right. Calamari's tough.
Yeah,
literally.
if you don't get the right one, it's a little sad. And then I had chips and guacamole.
Okay. And also, same thing. Chips both have to be good. What's your go-to? Like El Pueblito does a nice good carry-out, but what's your good in restaurant?
Is that the place on Central?
Yeah, it's off of Central. No, it's off of Foster.
There's
right
a place
by
off of Central in Montrose. I'm blanking on the name. It's really good.
Okay.
Believe it or not, this I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. People need to understand. People only think guacamole. You have to go to a Mexican place to get good guacamole.
That's fair.
You don't, though.
No.
And could I tell you why?
Please.
Most of the chefs are Mexican. Right? This is a pro-Mexican joke, by the way. It's not even a joke. It's an observation.
No. I've worked in a lot of restaurants. I worked at a Grizzlies Lodge. It was like game, and it was all Mexican. Mexican chefs. Yeah.
So you'd be surprised. Whenever I go to any kind of restaurant, and I'm not sure on the appetizers, but I see chips and guacamole, I'll say, I bet that's pretty good. And then I remember ordering it from an Irish pub once. And my friends being like, "You're not going to order guacamole
I love
at
that.
an Irish pub."
You should.
And I did, and it was fantastic.
I love that.
And I told them, I don't think it's a guy named Patrick making them. So I think we're okay.
I love
right?
that.
Like, again, and this is a pro. This is positive.
Now I gotta find out what's one and
ones.
two. I gotta find out what's 1 and 2. I'm like, is it loaded potato skins? Is it loaded fries?
Loaded is in one of the words.
Loaded. All right, Matt. Now that we have
Matt's
that
back.
Matt. First of all, thank you for calling back. What's your favorite appetizer? And then we can talk about what we wanted to talk about.
Honestly, I'm a guacamole guy.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But, it took 10 years and 2 different radio channels, but Patty finally hung up on me.
Did you mute me? Because I had him in the queue and ready to go on the air, and then we got this, and then I ranted. I was ranting about things, and then Matt gave up on us, I think. So I apologize.
No, Patty. There are many things I will do. I will never give up on the mighty Patti Vasquez.
Thank you.
I may give up on the channel with the call letters mixed up, so it's not revealed of GNW. But what do I know? So, folks, here we are. So I'm going to do my best interpretation of what they sound like right now. Oh, boo-hoo, I voted for Trump and my farm's getting closed.
Yep.
Boo-hoo. I'm Hispanic and they deported my wife even though I voted for Trump. You're idiots. You're all idiots. He said he was going to do exactly that, and he did it, and you're wondering why he didn't help you out. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't give a damn about you. All he cares about is renaming the Gulf of Mexico into America because, God forbid, that's a big win. Let's name water after us. Whoopity-doo. That means nothing.
Yep.
And your so-called lowering of grocery prices. I have good news for you. They didn't go down. Actually, if I'm correct, and I might not be, but I think I am, they went up because you're stupid and you get nothing. The only thing you get is a dictator and a man who wants to get all of our information while he's doing Nazi salutes. And if you tell me that it's a Roman salute, I'm probably going to slap you because where do you think they got it from in the first place 80 years ago? Roman salutes.
Yeah.
So you're all stupid. Now the question is, do we take these people back in when the time comes, when we need them? No. I say no. I say we leave these people to rot and fester in their own crap because this is entirely their fault. And God forbid if we're lucky enough to get another election, which honestly, I really don't think we will. I think they're in there and they're not coming out. But if we do get a second election, we as Americans have to vote him out without these people.